Stop being a soft woman, not because softness is wrong, not because femininity should be erased, and not because kindness is a flaw, but because this world will take advantage of your softness if it is not guarded with strength. Too many women break in silence, suffer in kindness, and drown in patience that was never meant to be endless. Too many women confuse loyalty with self-abandonment, and love with self-destruction. The softness that was meant to beautify you, to reflect mercy and compassion, has become the very reason you're tolerated, not respected. You were never created to be weak. You were never designed to endure endless disrespect in the name of patience. You were honored by the one who created you, and he never asked you to shrink so others could grow. Being a soft woman doesn't mean you become the one who tolerates betrayal and calls it love. It doesn't mean you stay quiet in the face of emotional injustice and label it patience. It doesn't mean you say yes when your heart screams no, just to keep someone who would leave you the moment your silence no longer serves them. This softness has been exploited, misunderstood, and used as a weapon against your own soul. Your mercy should never be used to chain you. Your empathy should never be the reason you are trapped in a cycle of begging for the very things you deserve to be given without asking. Respect, loyalty, care, and truth. You see, there is a difference between being soft and being naive, between being kind and being taken for granted. A woman who knows her worth knows that softness must be protected by wisdom. She does not bend over backward for people who would never move an inch for her. She does not tolerate mixed signals, broken promises, and lazy love and call it destiny. She does not give endlessly to someone who only takes. Stop being the woman who forgets herself to remember everyone else. Stop being the one who carries emotional weight that doesn't belong to you. Stop being the one who stays just because you're afraid of starting over. Warmth should be. There is nothing beautiful about clinging to something that is breaking your spirit just because you're used to it. You were not created for servitude to people. You were created to serve your Creator, and in doing so, you protect your heart from being shattered by creation. When you tie your self-worth to someone's ability to treat you right, you become their prisoner. When you tie it to Allah, you become free, because you no longer chase validation from those who are temporary. You don't become better, you become better. You don't become loud, you become clear. You don't become harsh, you become firm. And in that firmness, your softness becomes precious again, because now, it's protected. It's not for everyone. It's not for those who don't appreciate it. It's not for those who come and go as they please and expect you to be available every time they return. Stop being a soft woman who allows her voice to be silenced when something is wrong. Your silence is not humility if it's suffocating your soul. Your silence is not wisdom if it enables oppression. There is a time to be quiet and a time to speak. There is a time to forgive and a time to walk away. There is a time to be patient and a time to choose peace over pain. You need to know the difference. You need to stop tolerating what Allah never asked you to accept. There is no virtue in enduring emotional abuse. There is no reward in shrinking yourself just to fit into someone's limited understanding of love. There is no piety in staying in places that drain your iman, dim your light, and destroy your sense of self. A soft woman must be brave enough to walk away from what no longer aligns with her values. She must understand that her tears are seen by Allah, and her silence is heard by the heavens. But she must also act. Diyar is powerful, but so is action. Don't ask for change and then fear the consequences of taking the first step. Don't pray for peace and then stay where chaos lies. Don't ask for love and then accept pain disguised as affection. Your life is too valuable to be wasted in the wrong places, with the wrong people, under the wrong definitions of love and loyalty. You were never meant to be small. You were never meant to apologize for having needs, feelings, standards, or boundaries. Your softness was never supposed to be a burden. It was meant to be a blessing. But the world is not kind to soft women unless they learn to be strong, not loud, not cold, strong in values, strong in faith, strong identity, strong in love for Allah. And that kind of strength transforms your softness into power. You don't need to raise your voice. You need to raise your standards. You don't need to harden your heart. You need to protect it. Should be. You don't need to prove yourself to people who don't even see your worth. You need to remind yourself who you are in the sight of your Lord. The Prophet taught us that the best among you are those who are best to their women. That means your value is not dependent on how much you endure, but on how much you are honored. And if someone fails to honor you, fails to cherish you, fails to appreciate you, then you must be strong enough to choose dignity over attachment. You must be strong enough to say, this is not love, this is harm, and walk away even if your heart still wants to stay. That's not cold, that's wisdom, that's maturity, That's self-respect. That's strength rooted in knowing that Allah has not abandoned you, even when the people you love most have. Stop being a soft woman who constantly doubts herself because others couldn't see her light. You were not made to prove your worth. You were made to live it. Stop watering dead relationships. Stop making excuses for broken promises. Stop explaining your heart to those who aren't trying to understand. You do not owe anyone your peace. You do not owe anyone your repeated forgiveness while they continue the same pattern. You do not owe anyone your silence when your voice is needed. You do not owe anyone the version of you that destroys your inner peace just to maintain temporary connection. Start being the woman who knows when to pour and when to preserve. The woman who knows when to give and when to guard. The woman who knows when to speak and when to stay silent, not out of fear, but out of purpose. The woman who knows that strength does not require the absence of emotion, but the alignment of emotion with wisdom. Be the woman who has cried in the middle of the night, but still gets up and faces the day with grace. Be the woman who has been broken by people she loved, but still chose to love herself enough to heal. Be the woman who fears no loss because she knows everything written for her is hers, and no one can take it. You were not made to be endlessly soft. You were made to be soft where it is deserved and strong where it is necessary. Don't let anyone use religion to silence your truth. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for walking away from what breaks your spirit. Don't let anyone make you feel like you have to choose between being loved and being respected. The right people will give you both. And the wrong ones don't deserve a place in your life, no matter how long they've been in it. This is your sign to reclaim your softness by anchoring it in strength. To stop letting your love be your downfall. To stop giving endlessly while receiving barely anything. To stop being scared of being alone and start being scared of being disconnected from your values. Because the moment you stand firm in who you are, the world cannot shake you. You don't lose people. You lose illusions. You don't lose relationships. You lose chains. And what you gain in return is peace, clarity, and a deep connection to the one who sees every effort, hears every prayer, and knows every hidden tear. So stop being a soft woman in a way that causes you harm. Be soft, but let your softness be a garden, not a battlefield. Let it be protected, not plundered. Let it be sacred, not sacrificed. Because a woman who honors her softness with strength, honors her soul. And a soul connected to its creator can never be broken by creation. You were not created to be walked over. You were created to walk with dignity. You were not formed to be stepped on by the weight of others' expectations, nor shaped to be bent by the demands of those who have no regard for your worth. Your presence in this world is not an accident, and your heart is not meant to be trampled by the feet of those who only take. You were crafted with honor, with a soul that carries light, with a purpose far beyond being merely accepted or tolerated. You were given intellect to choose, a heart to discern, and a voice to express. Yet somewhere along the line, the world taught you that your silence was noble, your compliance was strength, and your sacrifices for unworthy people made you righteous. That's not dignity. That's distortion. When you walk with dignity, you understand that your worth is not up for debate. You do not negotiate your self-respect for the comfort of others. You do not lower your standards just to be included in spaces not meant for you. Walking with dignity means knowing when to say no, and not feeling the need to explain yourself to people who only want you quiet and submissive. It means knowing that you are not obligated to tolerate disrespect masked as jokes, love, or family loyalty. It means knowing when to walk away, not out of arrogance, but because your soul deserves peace and your heart deserves safety. People may call you proud when you refuse to beg. They may call you difficult when you refuse to settle. They may call you selfish when you refuse to carry everyone's burdens while ignoring your own. But dignity doesn't answer to their opinions. Dignity walks forward even when misunderstood. Dignity chooses the harder road when it leads to honor. Dignity allows you to stand even when your knees are shaking and your heart is heavy, because you know you are seen by the one who created you. You do not need to be loud. You do not need to shout for validation. You just need to walk, firm, graceful, unapologetic in your values and boundaries. You were not created to constantly apologize for who you are. You were not placed on this earth to mold yourself into what others expect just so you're accepted. You were not given life to be a people pleaser at the cost of your own truth. Dignity teaches you that sometimes silence is strength, and sometimes speaking up is survival. It teaches you that kindness is not a ticket for others to cross your boundaries, and forgiveness is not an excuse to be mistreated repeatedly. You are allowed to hold your head high. You are allowed to walk away from those who don't honor your presence. You are allowed to protect your energy, your mind, and your heart from what dims your spirit. Mercy does not mean weakness, and silence is not surrender. Mercy is a strength cloaked in softness. It is the ability to forgive even when you're hurt, the choice to show compassion when you have every right to retaliate, and the wisdom to respond with grace when your pride is provoked. The world often sees mercy as a form of defeat, as if being kind is something to be ashamed of, as if choosing to show gentleness is a sign that you're easily broken. But real mercy comes from a place of deep inner strength. It is not the absence of power. It is the control of power. Anyone can lash out, anyone can scream, anyone can retaliate. But not everyone can restrain their anger. Not everyone can walk away from revenge when it's at their fingertips. Not everyone can choose to be bigger than the moment. That is strength disguised as mercy. And silence. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of power. Silence is not weakness when it comes from intention. It is not surrender when it is chosen from clarity. Sometimes, silence is the loudest scream, the sharpest sword, the clearest boundary. People often mistake your quietness as approval, your patience as passivity, your lack of response as defeat. But silence can speak volumes without a single word. It can tell someone you will not engage in games, that you have risen above the chaos, that your peace is worth more than temporary validation. B. There is dignity in silence, when it is chosen to protect your peace rather than to appease the noise around you. Many women have been taught to be quiet in the name of humility, to remain silent in the name of respect, to endure in the name of faith. But there is a difference between silence that protects your soul and silence that buries it. There is a silence that comes from trust in Allah's justice, and then there's silence that comes from fear of people. The former is empowering. The latter is suffocating. When your silence is rooted in strength, you are not weak. You are wise. You know when to speak, and when to let your calmness carry the message. You know when your words would fall on deaf ears, and when your absence will echo louder than your presence ever could. Mercy is not blind tolerance. It is not allowing people to walk over you repeatedly in the name of forgiveness. Mercy doesn't ask you to become a doormat. It asks you to rise above, but not to ignore red flags. Mercy does not mean remaining in harmful spaces, hoping your compassion will change people who are committed to harming you. It means you walk away without hatred, pray without bitterness, and let go without revenge. That is strength. And silence is not about erasing your voice. It's about using it wisely. It's knowing that sometimes your stillness rattles more than your speech, that your calm reaction disarms more than 1,000 arguments. True strength is found in self-respect, not in begging for love that isn't returned. There is nothing powerful about lowering your worth just to be noticed. There is nothing noble about chasing people who are indifferent to your presence. There is no honor in constantly proving your value to someone who refuses to see it. Love is not meant to be begged for, and your soul is not meant to be exhausted by convincing someone to care. When love is real, it flows naturally, nourishes your heart, and uplifts your spirit. It does not drain you. It does not leave you questioning your worth every night. It does not make you feel invisible, while you try your best to stay visible in their world. Self-respect means you know what you bring to the table, warmth should be, and you won't shrink just to fit into someone's limited appetite for love. It means you walk away not because you didn't care, but because you cared too much to keep allowing your heart to be mishandled. It means you understand that your peace is more precious than temporary attention, that your dignity matters more than half-hearted affection. Too often, people confuse persistence with loyalty. They believe that staying in the wrong place long enough will eventually earn them the love they crave. But love that must be earned through suffering isn't love. It's dependency, and dependency built on disrespect only leads to deeper wounds. True strength is knowing when to stop trying. It's knowing when your effort has crossed the line into desperation. It's knowing that you cannot fix what someone refuses to acknowledge. It's understanding that your value is not measured by how many chances you give, how much pain you endure, or how long you stay in someone's shadow hoping they'll finally see your light. Begging for love changes nothing. It only lowers your voice, dims your light, and traps you in cycles of emotional starvation. Every time you beg for a heart to choose you, you abandon a piece of your own. Every time you accept less than what you deserve, you silently teach your soul that it is not worth more. Love should never come at the cost of self-respect. Real love honors, protects, and cherishes. It never puts you in a position where you have to lose yourself to keep it. Strength is walking away when staying becomes self-betrayal. Strength is choosing solitude over humiliation. Strength is praying for the courage to release what is not meant for you, even when your heart still aches for it. That kind of strength is rare, but it is liberating, Because once you choose self-respect over empty affection, you reclaim your power. You stop depending on broken sources to validate you. You stop bleeding for someone who doesn't even bring a bandage. You stop knocking on doors that were never yours to open in the first place. And in that moment, warmth should be, you realize you were never meant to chase love. You were meant to become it, to carry it within, and to give it where it is cherished, not where it must be earned through pain. Being kind should never come at the cost of your boundaries. Kindness is a virtue, a reflection of character, a sign of spiritual maturity, but it was never meant to be a gateway for others to take advantage of you. Many people misunderstand kindness as weakness. They believe that if you are kind, you are willing to tolerate everything, accept anything, and absorb everyone's burdens without question. But that is not kindness. That is a lack of protection for your soul. Real kindness knows where to draw the line. It is gentle but not foolish. It is giving but not self-destructive. It serves others, but not at the expense of one's own emotional, mental, or spiritual well-being. You are allowed to say no and still be a kind person. You are allowed to withdraw from unhealthy situations and still carry compassion in your heart. Boundaries are not a lack of kindness. They are an expression of self-respect. They are the fences that protect your emotional garden from being trampled by those who do not value your presence. Without boundaries, kindness becomes a magnet for exploitation. People will keep taking as long as you keep giving, not because they are evil, but because you never showed them where the limit is. And once you lose your sense of limit, you lose the ability to protect what's sacred within you. Kindness without boundaries turns into resentment. You start to feel unappreciated, taken for granted, and emotionally depleted. You begin giving out of obligation rather than sincerity. Your smile becomes heavy, your silence becomes painful, and your presence begins to fade into the background of your own life. Setting boundaries is not cruelty, it is clarity. It tells others, I care, but I won't let you harm me. I am present, but I will not carry what is not mine. I am kind, but I will not tolerate disrespect. These statements are not selfish. They are necessary for your emotional and spiritual survival. It is possible to love someone and still walk away from them because they violate your peace. It is possible to forgive someone and still never allow them back into your life because they broke trust beyond repair. That is not being harsh. That is having boundaries rooted in wisdom. You do not owe anyone access to your life just because you're a kind person. Access must be earned through mutual respect, consistency, and sincere intentions. Boundaries allow you to give from a place of fullness, not emptiness. They allow your kindness to be a conscious choice, not a default response to pressure or guilt. Many kind people are deeply wounded not because they lacked love, but because they lacked protection. They believed being soft meant being silent, being generous meant having no limits, and being patient meant enduring emotional abuse. But true kindness aligns with justice. It does not enable harm. It does not silence truth. It does not confuse being liked with being respected. Boundaries give kindness its dignity. They transform it from something passive to something powerful. They ensure that what you give comes from a heart that is safe, not scattered, and from a soul that is honored, not overrun. It is not piety to tolerate abuse. It is wisdom to walk away with your head high. So many people have been taught that endurance equals righteousness, that suffering in silence is a form of spiritual reward, that the more pain you tolerate from others, the more noble you are in the eyes of God. But that is not the truth. That is not what faith asks of you. Piety is not about allowing yourself to be harmed repeatedly. It is not about staying in environments that poison your soul, damage your heart, and suffocate your identity. Piety does not demand the destruction of your dignity in order to please people who continuously strip it away. Tolerating abuse, emotional, verbal, physical, or spiritual, is not a sign of patience, it's a signal of misplaced loyalty. You were not created to endure cycles of pain under the illusion that it makes you holy. You were not placed on this earth to bear the weight of someone else's cruelty just to be called faithful. Walking away from abuse is not rebellion, it is self-respect. It is the recognition that your Creator did not bring you here to be broken over and over again by hands or words that claim to love you. True love is not loud in its promises and silent in its harm. True love uplifts. Abuse does not. Many people stay because they are afraid of being judged, of being called disobedient, of being labeled as ungrateful or weak in faith. But protecting yourself is not disobedience. It is a manner, a trust that you must uphold for your own soul, your heart, your mind, your body. These are all trusts given to you, and you are responsible for how they are treated. Allowing someone to damage you while you call it patience is not what the faith teaches. The religion never glorified suffering at the hands of injustice. It calls for justice. It calls for fairness. It calls for standing up for yourself when no one else will. Wisdom means recognizing when something has become harmful. It means knowing when silence is strength and when silence is enabling wrong. Walking away is not an act of arrogance. It is an act of preservation. It is saying that you value your peace, your worth, and your well-being more than the fear of people's opinions. It is declaring that your life is too valuable to be spent in places that make you feel invisible, powerless, or constantly wrong. Walking away with your head high is not pride. It is gratitude for having survived what was meant to break you and clarity that you deserve better. Abuse wears many faces. Sometimes it hides behind sweet words followed by cruel actions. Sometimes it disguises itself in religious guilt. Sometimes it is so quiet, so subtle, that you question your own reality. But your heart always knows. Your heart feels when something isn't right. And when your heart tells you that you are being hurt, that your soul is bleeding in silence, it is not an invitation to endure. It is a call to protect what God has entrusted you with. Allah honors the woman who stands for truth, not the one who bends to please creation. In a world that often rewards silence, compliance, and self-erasure, it takes strength and clarity to speak the truth and stand firm in it. Too many women are taught that their value lies in how well they can keep peace, even if it means sacrificing their voice, compromising their beliefs, and tolerating injustice. But Islam never required you to lower yourself to be accepted. The same faith that teaches humility also teaches dignity. The same religion that promotes patience also commands justice. To stand for truth is not arrogance. It is obedience to the one who created truth. It is honorable not because people recognize it, but because Allah does. Pleasing people at the expense of your truth is a form of servitude that only leads to spiritual exhaustion. You try to be enough, quiet enough, agreeable enough, present enough, small enough, but it never seems to satisfy them. People are fickle. What pleases them today may displease them tomorrow. What they praise today, they may criticize tomorrow. If you bend endlessly to gain approval, you will lose your sense of self in the process. But when you stand for truth, no matter how uncomfortable or inconvenient it is, you are grounded. You are free from the shackles of people's opinions, because your aim is not to be liked. It is to be sincere in the eyes of your Lord. A woman of truth does not chase applause. She does not fear disapproval when she knows her stance is rooted in justice. She knows that her value is not determined by how well she entertains others' expectations, but how consistently she lives with integrity. Even when her voice shakes, even when she stands alone, she remains firm, because she knows Allah is with those who are sincere. This doesn't mean being rude or confrontational. It means being unshakable when it comes to your values, your dignity, and your boundaries. It means saying no to what displeases Allah, even when everyone else says yes. It means standing against falsehood, even when it's dressed in charm, tradition, or emotional pressure. Sometimes, speaking the truth costs you relationships. It costs you comfort. It costs you ease. But Allah sees every moment of your inner struggle, every tear you shed in private, every breath you take to stay calm in situations that tried to silence you. He honors the woman who walks away from wrongdoing, even when her heart is breaking. He honors the woman who holds her tongue instead of lying to be accepted. He honors the woman who chooses a quiet life of sincerity over a loud life of pretense. Truth is not always welcomed, and people may distance themselves from you when you hold it. But what you lose in people, you gain in divine support, protection, and peace. When your loyalty is to the truth, your soul is safe. When your compass is the pleasure of Allah, you no longer fear the displeasure of creation.